All right. So first, I want to thank you guys all for being with us on a Sunday and giving us some of your really precious time. OBM is a really interesting topic to lots of behavior analysts. I would say, especially in a province where we have so little regular ABA that it's kind of this fantasy world where people actually pay people, companies pay behavior analysts to do stuff like this. And so I'm wondering if you guys, or one or all three of you, could give us a brief summary about how OBM differs in traditional applied behavior analysis, if it does at all, and just kind of give us, the landscape a little bit.
Shannon, you want to take that one?
Sure. So OBM is really the science of human behavior applied in organizational contexts. And rather than focusing on like individual behavior change that, the clinical folks tend to, we're focusing on kind of I describe it as two main things, which is improving those business outcomes for the organization while also balancing out the needs of the people working within the organization. So getting that balance of the business does really well and the people are doing really well. I would say that the foundation science is the same, but the implementation can look really different. The independent and dependent variables are really different. And we also don't really have the luxury to just look at that simple ABC. We have to zoom all the way out into what's called a macro system, and how different regulatories impact how an organization runs, how other organizations and other types of therapies impact the way that an organization runs, particularly in human services. We have to look between departments to determine different relationships and focus on group dynamics, and then get all the way down to that simple ABC of a staff member. So we've got this huge layered system that we work through when we practice OBM. And it might be similar to thinking about, family dynamics and, the society in which a family is operating from a clinical perspective. So that's one of, I would say, the big differences between clinical ABA and OBM.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in there with any follow-ups?
Yeah, I would say I've seen to kind of piggyback, I guess, on Shannon's talk there. I've seen a lot of people that say they're interested in OBM, but when you talk to most OBM people, the practice OBM is the big kind of umbrella term, and then it sort of breaks down into lots of like little things, much like clinical area. You can be a behavior analyst and then specialize in feeding disorders or early intervention or something like that. I find when most people talk about OBM, they're usually referring to what's called performance management, which is what Shannon was talking about, that very employee level, very small dynamic, small group of employee kind of work. And that most closely looks like what most people learn in ABA programs. If you were to just literally take clinical ABA and plop it over, that's probably the closest analog. The other things, the systems analysis, that's that's a little harder to learn, and most traditional programs don't have classes in that stuff. And other specializations like safety, which are taught at very few universities, there are safety experts, and that's kind of its own subgenre. I would even say pay for performance is its own sub thing. It's kind of like systems plus performance management plus a bunch of legal and regulatory. You have to know a lot of different things to play around and pay for performance. I guess that's the only thing I would add on.
And consumer behavior analysis, which is fun to read about, where they're analyzing purchasing behavior, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, one of the other differences is funding. We don't care about, in terms of society, about helping businesses. So there's not third-party funding, a la insurance, or even tax dollars generally. So in terms of getting into this area and getting jobs in this area, you're either going to have to make the case that you're going to enhance and bring some value that a company's willing to pay, or you're going to have to find jobs that are aligned. And the other things, there's rarely jobs titled OBMer or OBMX. So you're going to have to be able to learn, read job descriptions, get jobs, and then say, I can bring this value. in most cases.
To be fair, that's kind of what it sounds like to practice applied behavior analysis in Quebec. So just for some context there's about 50 practicing certified practitioners, simply because there's no direct funding option for us yet, and it's like not really recognized. So we're not strangers to that model of trying to fit yourself into some kind of job that sounds a bit like something we could do.